No, you can't get unlimited free internet for a one-off payment of $50, but here's why some people might think you can. Hi, I'm Ben Moore, I need a haircut, and this is Wry Angle. A friend of mine recently suggested that I look into an ad that was displayed on a reputable news site here in New Zealand called Stuff. Now, the ad was for a product called Smart Wi-Fi, which is sold by a company called Native Discount, which I have since learned is a company dedicated to scamming people. Native Discount claims that its Smart Wi-Fi product can offer unlimited internet access to anyone, anywhere in the world for just 49 New Zealand dollars. That's about $30 or 25 euro. Where I live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, it's actually illegal to make claims about a product saying that it does something when you know that it doesn't do that thing, and I'm pretty sure that's true in most places. And that alone makes it worthwhile me here pointing out this despicable behavior. But as I researched this scam, I realized just how effective it actually was, and made me wonder why it was so effective, and also made me wonder how it ended up on the Stuff website. So join me, will you, as I look into the tech that Native Discount is claiming that they're using and what people who fall for the scam are actually getting. Plus, I'm going to look at the approach to digital advertising that enables these scammers and then draw some conclusions about the world around us. Stay tuned. My friend sent me this screenshot of the ad as they saw it on the stuff.co.nz website. As you can see, it's here among what look like more legitimate ab sites, among what looks like some pretty reasonable ads and some that look a bit odd. But this one is clearly a scam. Stuff actually works with several ad supplying companies and tries to ensure that the ads that are displayed on its website are all legit. This one here was served by a company called Outbrain. While Outbrain didn't respond to my request for comment, Stuff actually did, and we'll talk about that later in the story. But first, let's look more closely at the ad. If you click on the ad, it will take you to this article. It looks kind of like an article anyway, but spoilers, it's not. The article is designed to look like it's a sponsored story, or what some people call an advertorial, on a real news website. It claims that an ex-SpaceX engineer named Alex Morel started a company called OrbitNet with the goal of bringing free or cheap internet to everybody. The quote is, "My goal is to eliminate financial and geographical barriers once and for all." It says that in 2023, he launched a satellite to achieve these goals. It goes on to say that this Alex Morel is now giving cheap access to his network as a way of drumming up some publicity for his company. While the idea of a rich tech bro doing anything out the kindness of their heart should have been a dead giveaway, this article is designed to appeal to the idea of getting in on the ground floor of something massive. To be clear, this is not a real news article. It's not even a real advertorial. Every single thing on this page is lies. It's just one layer of fakery after another, to the point it's actually quite hard to keep track at times. Let's try and unpack it. First, calling this an advertorial implies it's a paid story in a news outlet, which it is not. Second, technomag like this doesn't exist. There is a techno magazine, but that's a European outlet that is about disco music. Not disco music, I'm not 100 years old. There is a technomag, but it is a European outlet about techno music, not technology. 3, why would an outlet called Technomag be hosted on a domain that's nativediscount.com? 4, this author doesn't exist. 5, this Twitter link takes you nowhere. 6, ex-SpaceX engineer Alex Morel doesn't exist. OrbitNet doesn't exist. And this is clearly not Alex Morel because it's a model from a series of stock images and videos. 7, there's no way this guy could survive in space without his suit. I could go on, but essentially, just believe me when I say it's pretty much all lies. Native Discount isn't even the name of the company because according to the legal disclosure page on Native Discount's website, that's actually called Native Agency LLC and is based in the United Arab Emirates. Whether that's true, I don't know. What is unequivocally true is that the people behind all of this are morally bankrupt scumbags. But unfortunately, They're actually quite clever, morally bankrupt scumbags. You see, they've done a lot of research to make this scam work. On the internet, you can make a website that looks like a news outlet and you can say whatever you want, true or not, doesn't matter. And there's a lot of confusing messaging out there around tech, which can cause people to believe things that aren't true. And there's been a lot of stories about sole founders who have done amazing things that have created unrealistic expectations about what one person can actually achieve. Honestly, it's really just good marketing. By disguising this as a genuine paid story on a real news outlet, they've managed to convince people that a single person launched a satellite in 2023 and that let him provide free, high-speed internet for life to people for cheap. As an aside, this whole thing stands as evidence that it is worth knowing at least the basics about new technologies. Satellite internet is actually like 20 years old, but it's only in the last 5 that it's really taken off in popularity. Newer iPhone models can now use satellites to relay messages, and internet service providers around the world are making deals with satellite internet providers to allow them to send messages across their networks as well. In my home country, there was a cyclone recently that took out power to a bunch of cell sites, and One New Zealand, a provider whose name I still don't like, was able to use that exact technology to help keep people connected even though regular service was down. The technology is actually really cool. Some people refer to it as cell towers in space, which sounds a little bit dramatic, but is actually also kind of accurate, and it reminds me of the Muppets, which I quite like. The point is the tech is real, and some people might read this article and think that it makes sense that this person is able to give them da-dum-dee-doo-ba. The point is, the tech is real, and to some people it might make sense that somebody's figured out how to use this technology to give people cheaper internet. But there are a few dead giveaways on this site that this is absolutely false. First, it's too good to be true, and this is the age-old thing about scams. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If there was some unlimited high-speed internet that costs $50 and you got access to it forever, wherever you are, I guarantee you, every news outlet, especially tech news outlet, would be screaming about it from the rooftops, and that's just not the case. If you did a quick Google search, you would see that nobody else is talking about this stuff, just Technomag, which again doesn't exist. Second, a single satellite can't provide a constant connection. Satellites need line of sight, whether it's to the device or to the base station. And think about your home Wi-Fi, right? Sometimes walls kind of get in the way of the signal and make it worse. Well, imagine that it was this much earth between your device and your router. The signal's just not going to get through. Third, a single satellite can't provide that much connectivity to that many people. Currently, iPhone and One New Zealand's connections, they're limited to text only because text messages are a tiny, tiny packet of information. They can't send large amounts of data. When you're looking at something like Starlink's broadband, which needs a special satellite receiver, that actually connects to a network of over 7,000 satellites that are going over our heads at any given time. Not just one. That's impossible. And there's more detail that we could go into, and if you are really interested in the tech, then I suggest you should do that. But that's enough to kind of give you a gut check on whether or not people's claims are true. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of people who have fallen for this scam, and if you check out Native Discount on the Trustpilot review website, you can just see review after review after review. Every month there's a handful of reviews on that site saying that people got scammed, and a lot of them are this exact scam. And here we get the first clue as to what these people are actually selling, because one of the reviews says, what they sent me was an outdated hotspot gadget which requires a data-loaded SIM to connect to the internet. So what are they actually selling? Well, anybody who places an order and actually receives the product will likely get exactly that, a cheap hotspot device. And they'd be lucky if it was even the one in the advertising, which is from a company called Ryoko, but they've just edited the brand name out on the advert, as you can see. This device basically acts like a cell phone would when you use your hotspot. The point is, you need a paid subscription to a mobile internet provider in order to be able to use it. You can connect your devices to its Wi-Fi once it has a SIM card. And when I emailed Native Discount's customer support, well, that's what they told me too. They said, this product offers portable Wi-Fi connection. However, it is essential to insert a SIM card inside for it to work properly. Without a SIM card, this product could not be used, which is not what they say in the advertorial. It's not what they say anywhere. If anyone pushes back on it, the bad reviews show that the returns process is prohibitively expensive or complicated. I asked if I could speak to someone from Native Discount or even SpaceX engineer Alex Morel about how they managed to create this technology, and they said, sorry, our phone lines are down, email only. I suggested a video call, pointing out that should be easy considering they have free, unlimited internet anywhere in the world, which they ignored. Slightly ironic. I think it's the subject of an Alanis Morissette song, but I couldn't check because my streaming was down without a SIM card. When I asked how I could get the free unlimited internet account with OrbitNet, that's Alex Morel's business, they said they would have to go and ask the department, and then I never heard back again. What a surprise. So that's the scam. At least it's one scam, because I discovered that this group of losers are running more than one. In my research, I came across this very familiar looking article with this very familiar looking guy in it. It's Alex, busy boy. This is an advertorial for a streaming device that uses 3.5mm headphone jack or HDMI, who knows. This scam promises... This scam promises access to all available channels and streaming applications, and it says it does this by purchasing thousands of channel and application accesses and then utilizing artificial intelligence to redistribute them to the boxes. That's just not how any of this works. If you like, I can do another video explaining why that bunch of crap is in fact a bunch of crap, but I feel like that's a little bit more of an obvious scam. But that's not to say people aren't falling for it. I came across this 92-year-old who had asked the forum called justanswer.co.uk about this exact scam. They opened their computer, saw an ad on Technomag, which said that for £100 they could get a streaming box which gives access to all streaming applications and channels. They said it's great if not a scam, very true, and that they might have to answer tomorrow because they have a dinner date with friends. And then adorably, this 92-year-old person said that they had printed out 10 pages of detail relating to the advertisement, and then they wanted to mail them to the forum to to see if they could reach a positive conclusion regarding authenticity. I love this person, and I'm very excited to find out what kind of quaint, ancient, antiquated stuff that I come out with when I'm in my 90s, if I ever get to my 90s. While I'm fairly pointing the finger at Native Discount or Native Agency, however they are, this article was under the name TV Evolution Box, but it's pretty clearly the same scammers. Now, before I start bringing everything together, it's really worth mentioning the payments page for these products. It's just another dead giveaway that they're scammers. I mean, look at this. You've got your sensitive payment details, all your personal information fields just thrown in there amongst advertising. If you don't have a dedicated payment gateway that you're sent to that is a recognizable name, don't put your payment details in there. These mean nothing. These words, these icons, they're just pictures that they've copy and pasted from somewhere else to make them look more authentic. Funny story, the guy who actually created this payments page left his details in the source code. So Madassa Ali of eGooty, I hope you feel really bad about making this junk-ass, insecure, scam-enabling website, or at least you really needed the money that they paid you to do so. If you do have a 92-year-old or similar in your life, it might be worth just mentioning to them, don't click on internet advertising, no matter how reputable the website is. Which brings me to my next point. Stuff.co.nz, as I said earlier, is a reputable and good news website. And I don't want to get into the trust in media stuff. I'm not interested. Maybe that's another video, but not right now. But that reputable news website ended up with a scam advert on its website. And I'm sure they weren't happy about that. See, Stuff sells advertising to legitimate businesses like this ice cream business, Carpety, selling their affogato ice cream, which I can assure you is no scam, and neither is their raspberry and white chocolate. they're all fantastic. And sure, affogato just means coffee and ice cream, so it's just marketing, but damn it if it doesn't sound delicious. Anyway, Stuff also uses automated advertising services from several companies, including the digital ads monopsony Google and this other company, Outbrain. I'm by no means an expert in this area, but what I do know is that the likes of Google and probably Outbrain use data, information about the website, information about the user that they've collected in order to serve the ads that are most suitable. As a side note, this data is collected through the crumbs that you leave behind as you surf the internet, and that can be accounts that you're logged into. It can be the IP address logs when you visit a website. It can be links that you've clicked on or social media posts that you've liked, all kinds of things, and increasingly arcane and unavoidable ways they're collecting your information. If you want to avoid it, if you're not worried about it, that's fine, but if you want to avoid it, a really good start is to stop using Google Chrome and start using a browser like Mozilla Firefox, which reduces the amount of trackers that are following you around. The advert for smart Wi-Fi was delivered by Outbrain to my friend. And I don't know how much user data they use, but I do know that they try and fit their ads in with the content of the site. A news site, therefore, probably wouldn't want an ad that leads to a fake news article making fake claims about a product. Outbrain does have a webpage outlining its advertising guidelines. The page starts by yelling trust and authenticity at you, which comes across as a little bit like the lady doth protest too much, methinks to me, or to put it in a less 16th century way. It feels a bit like trust washing, in my opinion. Not to say it is, just the vibe. The scammers made their website look like a news article because they wanted to bypass any walls and sneak around any controls that may be in place. Putting advertorial at the top also adds another sheen of authenticity because you would expect more marketing-esque language in an advertorial rather than an editorial news website. If you scroll down on Outbrain's advertiser guidelines page to prohibited categories, you'll find this: fake news. Sites that seek to intentionally deceive the reader into believing something that is not true. Fun fact, another prohibited category is contraceptives, but I don't have any such restrictions. Durex, if you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, you know where to find me. Now, that advertorial was maybe the fakest ass thing I've seen in my life, and any human person who had seen it would definitely have caught it, so I can only attribute the miss here to our all-knowing AI overlords. Regardless, the ad appeared on Stuff, a legitimate news website, and that adds legitimacy to the scam. And that could potentially have caused a Stuff reader to lose their hard-earned money, which I know Stuff wouldn't want. And when I contacted Stuff about this, they confirmed my suspicion that this was basically a case of something slipping through the cracks, despite controls that are in place. The outlet's communications team says that they run thousands of ads a day. Thousands. A lot of ads, no wonder it's kind of hard to control. They said to comply with the Advertising Standards Authority, they had a number of rules in place to control the advertising we serve, including brand category and URL blocks. And then they provided me with the perfect segue into my next point with this comment: these blocks are ever evolving to adapt to the changing advertising environment to manage new advertisers and categories. In this instance, it appears this is a new advertiser where our default settings have not led to an immediate block despite it not meeting our quality standards. Now, if you talk to anybody in cybersecurity, and I have talked to a lot of people in cybersecurity among doing cool stuff like flips, obviously, but they always say the same thing. It's an arms race. As fast as companies are putting in place systems and processes that are designed to prevent scams or threat actors, as cool cybersec kids call them, well, just as fast those threat actors are able to create workarounds to those processes and controls. For example, I would guess that they've put Technomag there at the top as a image rather than as text to disguise the fact that it doesn't match with the URL. That would avoid it being flagged potentially by an algorithm. I don't know that though, that's just a guess. In addition to that, Native Discount or Native Agency or whoever they are, they also do legitimately sell items. It's mostly barely functioning cheap crap, but they're not making wildly inflated claims about it on their website. Having this storefront probably allows them to slide by certain checks and flags them as just another scummy dropshipper, rather than the full-on scamming awful people that they actually are. Stuff's communications team finished up by saying, We have remedied this and it will now help us inform our future advertising policies. We take our responsibility as a publisher extremely seriously and work as closely as possible with our advertising partners to ensure a safe environment for our audience. And realistically, the only thing that Stuff could do to forever avoid this ever happening, even slightly possibly, would be to stop running automated ads. But they can't do that because, well, the news is suffering. Earlier this year, I got made redundant from my job as a tech reporter, not with Stuff, with somebody else, but I do understand how Stuff needs more revenue than ever so that it can keep paying journalists. I don't know what percentage of Stuff's revenue comes from Outbrain ads, but it's not nothing. That means they're left balancing the responsibility of trying to produce really good news with the responsibility of not letting maybe, one amongst thousands of ads sneak their way in if it's a scam. Scammers know that they're desperate for revenue, and so they are willing to game the system if it means that they can get some halo effect from appearing on these legitimate news websites. And it's not just Stuff. There are dozens or hundreds even of outlets across the internet that are using Outbrain and others. These are all publishers that Outbrain claims as customers. Scammers manipulate the algorithms so they can sneak between the cracks and lay their little scam ads like cockroach eggs on those legitimate websites. But it's not just the news sites that these eggs are designed to exploit. Everybody's broke at the moment. I mean, I lost my job and I have a baby on the way and I have a toddler and the yogurt just has to keep flowing. We don't have a choice. So the idea of not paying for the internet every month actually sounds really appealing. And then add to that subscription creep where everybody everywhere wants you to pay them something every month for everything. And all that money's going to like 5 companies and everybody else just has to fight for scraps. It's no surprises that scammers figured out that this was a great fake selling point for their products. We also hear these pumped up stories every day of the ex-big tech person who's created the next big thing and it was really hard. Don't even worry about how he did it. Just know that he's made it easy, and so just give him all your money. So of course, people will be willing to pay $50 just once to avoid having to pay $30, $100 every single month. The scammers know what buttons to press. They even know that I'm not going to fall for their ad, and you probably won't fall for the ad, but we're not their targets. The 92-year-old is. Or your grandma, or your friend, or the widower across the road whose retirement payments are stagnating while everything gets more expensive, and so he might just have to do without the internet next month if something doesn't come up. So, next time somebody asks you dumb questions about satellite internet or AI, just take the time to give them the basics, or at least show them where they can find good information about that, because it could save them a lot of money. Just one more thing before we wrap up. I reached out to a government agency here in New Zealand to ask them whether they were aware of native discount, and of course they didn't say whether they were or not, because they never do. But they did give some good advice. They sent me a reply, which I'm supposed to attribute to Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment spokesperson Ian Kaplan. They said that if somebody sells you a product and it doesn't work like they said, you should go back to the company. And that's good advice. But I would add, don't let them mess you around, because these people will stall and deny and defer and promise, that you can make a refund, but that it's going to be really hard to return the product. So don't let them mess you around. Second, they said to make a complaint to the government, whether that's the Commerce Commission here in New Zealand, the FTC in the US, the ACCC in Australia, wherever you are, you can find out where to complain. Because even if it feels like you're yelling into the void when you make these complaints, because you never hear about it again, if you get enough complaints about the same people, it can create a critical mass where the governments can actually make these scammers' lives at least a little bit harder, if not shut them down completely. And just from me, don't be embarrassed if you get caught by a scam. Scammers are really smart and really good at what they do. I've been scammed. You might have been scammed. Your friends might have been scammed. If you have a good story about a scammer, maybe you can put it down in the comments below so that people don't feel so alone if they too have had the same issues. But just remember, it is an arms race. These things are always going to be evolving. They're going to be taking advantage of the next thing. So just trying to stay a little bit aware is really useful. So that's it for my first piece. It's really not what I expected it to be about, but when my friend sent me the information about this scam, I couldn't help but go and find out more about it. Big thank you to Jem Traylon for sending me the lead and getting the investigation started. If you enjoyed this and if you want more independent tech reporting, I might do reviews, I might do non-tech reporting, who knows what this channel will become, then please subscribe and hit the bell and comment and like. And although everybody says it all the time, it actually really does help. So if you could do that for me, it would be awesome, even though this is just my first video. If you think I got something wrong, please let me know. If there's something else you'd like me to look into that you think is adjacent or relevant to this, just let me know as well. You can mention me in the comments, or you can reach me elsewhere. You can find the text version of this story over on my Substack, wryangle.substack, and you can find me on Bluesky, which I will link in the video description. I almost said show notes because I'm used to podcasting. This is my first video. In any case, for Wry Angle, I've been Ben Moore.